Hello, everyone. My name is Rachelle, and I'm really excited to be here at Product Drive today to speak on a topic that I'm really passionate about, and that is to help portray data effectively to derive meaningful insights. Before I begin, I have a question for all of you today. Have you ever had to create a report with a bunch of information only to get the feedback that it was way too overwhelming and that your stakeholders don't know what to do with it? So what now? My hope today is that I can give you some practical tips to translate whatever data it is that you have into meaningful and useful insights that can influence decisions for your company in 3 parts. So first, a little bit about me. I'm a lead product designer at BTS, which is a commercial real estate software company. I'm currently working on our workplace experience product, but previously I designed for our analytics arm, where we looked at market data to inform buying, selling, occupancy, and property management decisions. I'm based in New York City. I love being near bodies of water, completing jigsaw puzzles and interior design, or just really like organizing. As people get to know me, they'll know that mathematics is not my forte. So when I say that I design data products and I look at spreadsheets and numbers all day, there will be question marks floating around. Data has always been super abstract to me, and everyone kind of have their own expectations and interpretation of what data is and what it should do. But as a designer, I love talking to people and getting to know what they care about and how I can solve their problems. I'm sure you've all heard buzzwords, actionable insights, or data-driven insights. Everyone wants their data to do something. But in fact, in 2016, Forrester reports that 74% of firms say they want to be data-driven and have actionable insights, but only 29% say they can successfully connect analytics to action. So why such a difference? What is a good insight? Let's get into it and define what an insight is. According to the New Oxford American Dictionary, to have insight is the capacity to gain an accurate and deep intuitive understanding of a thing. So how do we get there? How do we start to build that accurate and deep intuitive understanding? First, make sure you have the right data, because without data, there is no insight. Your research should be framed by the goals and objectives of your exploration. Find out what questions you're trying to answer. What are you trying to learn or validate? For example, ask questions like, how did this initiative came about? What specific things are you looking to investigate? What should you pay attention to and what should you avoid? Are you looking at user behavior within your website, or are you looking at sales performance across your different locations? Whatever it is, the answer to these questions will point you to the right data set to start your exploration. Then recognize that data might be in a raw and unstructured state. That just means data isn't in a table yet for you to explore. Before you can do anything, you'll need to get it organized and processed. So from my experience, I find it helpful to lean on your data partners to get it sorted. Much like processing wood, we need loggers to turn trees into timber, carpenters to build structures, and architects to design buildings. Engineers can help you understand the infrastructure when collecting and storing data, while data scientists and analysts can explore and uncover different ideas. It is not a one-person job. And while you're doing that, follow best practices when collecting data. Keep it consistent. For example, you might have different tables that are named differently, but are capturing the same event. Having consistent mapping or definitions will keep the integrity of the data for later when you analyze it. Make sure it is complete or well-rounded enough. Just like asking for a second opinion, you want multiple sources to strengthen your findings. The more you have, the more inclusive you can get to understanding the whole picture. And then compare it with internal data sets. Sort out any discrepancies to ensure that what you're capturing is accurate. Now that I have the right data, how do we help your audience understand it? Put it into context. Give it some background. Like I mentioned in part 1, your exploration for insights is often framed by the questions you're trying to answer. This is when knowing your audience becomes really important. An insight can be a strong signal for one person, but noise to another. So make it relevant. Find out why this information might matter in their decision-making process, but also understand what their expectations might be. Get a good grasp on what they care about and what questions they ask along the way. For example, what would they consider successful? How does this relate to their business? And how does it impact their day-to-day workflow? Ultimately, putting information out at the right time and to the right person will make your findings more significant. Then tell it like a story. Practice storytelling. Set the stage and the circumstance that formed the information. Just like going into the 4 W's and a how, ask yourself, who is this for? What is it that you're looking at? When was this captured? Where did it occur? And how did it happen? Give evidence to demonstrate the depth of your exploration. Reveal different levels of detail from broad aggregate overview to its granularity. Your audience is going to ask questions around how you came to that conclusion, so be ready to support your findings. This will help build trust and confidence to your analysis. Lastly, include a baseline to benchmark. Putting data into context involves comparing it to something in order to give it meaning. If I told you that 100 people have subscribed to our newest product this week, it is a metric that has no meaning, and there's no good or bad attachment. But if I added that it was out of 1,000 people that signed up for notifications, and that we've done close to 80% conversions in the past, our metric now seems pretty low. And from our clarifying questions before, we know that this information is relevant to our audience and to their business. It becomes more compelling and it inspires a reaction. But more importantly, we want it to drive a response to do something, which we'll get into in the next section. The better the context, the better your audience will understand what they're reading and why it's important. Now, how can we make information useful and tie the analytics to an action? This part is the most challenging, which is to have a logical follow-up. I say logical because actionable insights need to be specific. What action are we driving towards? If you can, point it to a root cause and try to explain the results. Why did this happen? Is it repeatable? For example, one insight could look like this. Our conversion rate dropped 40% last week, and we noticed a lot of people abandoned the funnel halfway through the checkout form. It's a great insight, but there's no clear follow-up action. The subsequent question that your audience is left to ask is, well, why did they abandon the form? So instead, I can say, our 40% drop in conversion rate happened at the same time as when we had issues with the address validation form. Now, the clear follow-up would be to investigate whether it is a usability problem or a technical problem with the form. Sometimes we have to connect the dots and make relationships, and perhaps pull in different pieces of information to make the narrative more meaningful. Try to align it with a key initiative or a business KPI. You can leverage that higher sense of urgency that other insights may not. Also, be clear with how you present key information. Be intentional with your visuals and have a good sense of the type of response you're urging your audience towards. Our brains understand complex ideas better in simple shapes. It also helps with our memory of the information. I've noticed too often people use visualizations and treat it like a means to an end. Tools like Looker and Tableau make it super easy to plug in large data sets and turn it into captivating dashboards. While both are great tools, if your audience doesn't understand what they're seeing or that what they're seeing is too distracting, your message will be lost, overlooked, and ignored. My suggestion is to follow conventional shapes that help create associations to what the data is saying. Use patterns and colors that are familiar to your audience, like political colors. Stick with red for Republicans and blue for Democrats. Or to use intensity in a map, use light colors for lower values and dark deep colors for higher values. Always keep in mind what is the result or the narrative that you want your audience to take away with and highlight that. Finally, test how your audience is looking to apply the information. Actionable insights takes time to get right. So iterate with your audience to see what resonates and what doesn't. Ask them, what will knowing this information make them do? An executive once said to me that to get to a good insight, it's not a science, it's an art. It takes empathy and a lot of trial and error. So keep your audience at arm's length, try to get feedback often, take the time to tweak your messaging, and remember to always capture what happens next. To summarize, meaningful and actionable insights lie in the intersection of these three parts: reliable data, substantial context, and follow-up actions. I hope this talk has been helpful for some of you and that you can take something from today and apply it to your work. But if this is too much, don't worry. Remember this: any powerful idea is absolutely fascinating and absolutely useless until we choose to use it. With that, thank you so much for tuning in. And if you have any questions or comments or just want to chat more about this topic, feel free to reach me via LinkedIn. I would love to learn about your successes and challenges when dealing with data and insights. Thank you so much.